Now, what's problematic about that is if all of your points are with Delta, you have no other choice than to go along with their changes, which are typically a surprise. And so if they cut their valuation of their points by, say, 50%, well, your points are now worth 50% less. So in the case of should you go with, say, an airline or just a program specific credit card or kind of staying points agnostic like with American Express or Chase, the answer is always going to be B.
Welcome back to the Money Seed Podcast. My guest today is Albert Hsieh from Foxtrot Dash. Albert is the CEO and founder of Foxtrot Dash. It's a new and exciting fintech startup in the San Francisco Bay Area focusing on reward points. Albert, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Gabe. I'm very, very excited to be here, excited to share our story, and hopefully drop some tips along the way.
Let's get right into it. First things first, Albert, what is Foxtrot Dash?
Of course, Foxtrot Dash is a fintech business focused on reward points. We are an all-in-one platform that helps you earn and spend your reward points from credit card points, airline miles, and hotel points. What we believe to be the original virtual currency and digital currency out there. There's a lot of utility behind it, but essentially we've given our users about 30,000 different ways to use their hard-earned reward points, from first class travel to business class travel to redeeming points for overwater villas. There is a travel component to it as we begin, but we're excited to expand across every vertical.
So most people don't think all that much about points. And, I make that mistake as well. I don't think all that much about points, but maybe tell us what are the biggest mistakes people are making when they're choosing their reward cards or figuring out how many points to redeem, etc. What are the mistakes we're making?
That's a great question. And I don't blame you. When it comes to reward points, it's not necessarily the last thing on folks' mind. It is just another thing to do. It's a complex, complicated web of ideas and sort of gamification of these programs. And on top of that, when you look at every single loyalty program, we'll focus specifically on travel in this conversation, but no two programs are alike. No two currencies have the same value. So it's very complicated, and I understand, which is why we're in business to try to solve all of that. The biggest mistake, and that's not necessarily a mistake, but I think the biggest advice I would give for anyone that's kind of understanding the world of reward points is really think about your end goals versus signing up for the first credit card with a huge sign up bonus. I think if your goal is to travel with your family and offset those costs, or plan for your honeymoon and redeem points for a business class trip to Tahiti, those have very different ways and paths of getting there. So when you think about your goal, and then on top of that, you look at sort of the geographic location of where you are, all of that sort of adds up to, well, how can I earn the most points quickly and redeem for the best value? So here's an example. I'm based in San Francisco, and when you look at the types of airlines that serve San Francisco, it's very much United or Alaska. So those are kind of the first questions I ask our members when they're starting out is, how can you take advantage of your hometown offerings and services to maximize your earnings? So if you're a United flyer, then you want to stick with Star Alliance and ultimately go down that path. So if you're trying to fly Delta in San Francisco, it's not going to work.
One of the things that I find very interesting about that industry is that you can trade one kind of point for another one, right? Tell us more about these conversions and how should people look at whether or not they should convert their hotel points to airline miles or vice versa?
The easiest way to answer that is treat your hard-earned points like cash. If you are traveling and you're doing a currency exchange, a dollar potentially could be worth, £2 or 1,000 yen. You have a threshold, right? If you're going to that country, you're not going to want to spend less than that, or you're not going to want to exchange for less than that. That's sort of the same conversation that we're having. Chase, American Express, Citi, and Capital One, these are the major credit card brands, and they're issuing points just as much as they're trying to collect them back. And so they're willing to buy back your points for a certain price. And typically, they're going to try to undercut you and try to buy them back at the lowest possible conversion, which is 1 cent per point. However, by navigating and transferring to, say, a partner, for example, Singapore Airlines or British Airways, they might actually want your points for 2, 3, 4 cents per point because they're that valuable. Because American Express will then transfer the money to these loyalty programs. So you have both sides of the coin. If you want something quick and easy, you'll redeem them sort of directly with the issuer, which is in this example, American Express. But if you're willing to put in the time and say transfer them to say Marriott or a different program, then you might get 2, 3x more value out of every virtual point.
How about this one? Like quite often when I take a flight, I'm almost always offered some kind of a, hey, sign up for our airline credit card and, get a sign-on bonus of like 30,000 miles, etc. And it seems like every single airline has their own credit card, their own points reward system. But there are some credit card companies that say, look, we're not affiliated with a particular airline. We're just a generic credit card. But, you might have to pay like $100 a year membership, but you get all these extra benefits and perks. Which one do you recommend? Do you think people are better off with getting one particular airline, or are we better off getting a generic credit card with a good reward system?
Yeah, I love this question a lot. And as a self-proclaimed av geek, which is an aviation geek, my natural response is, well, I love airlines and flying and aviation. So a lot of these programs and credit cards from the airlines are compelling. However, staying points agnostic is going to be your best bet. And it's timely that we're having this conversation because just 2 days ago, Delta completely flipped around their loyalty program. So Sky Miles and the way that you earn and redeem points is completely shifting in the next year and a half. And I'll be the first to say it's a huge devaluation. Now, what's problematic about that is if all of your points are with Delta, you have no other choice than to go along with their changes, which are typically a surprise. And so if they cut their valuation of their points by, say, 50%, well, your points are now worth 50% less. So in the case of should you go with, say, an airline or just a program specific credit card or kind of staying points agnostic like with American Express or Chase, the answer is always going to be B. Always stay agnostic because American Express and Chase, your valuation of your points are protected more because you have so many more ways to transfer and move your points. Because if one program devalues, say like United, which they've consistently done every year since COVID, you can then go towards a different program, say like Singapore, which they have arguably the same access to the same inventory and seats as United because they're both Star Alliance carriers. So it's sort of a matrix of different ways of kind of getting creative. And so I would always recommend staying points agnostic because, again, if these programs completely devalue, you're screwed.
There are a lot of people who just simply don't bother with these point programs, right? They're too busy. They never sign up for the mileage program. They don't even put their number down, so they don't get that account set up when they do fly. How much value are people leaving on the table by not signing up for one of these programs?
The economics behind points is pretty fascinating, and that's another podcast conversation in and of itself. When you look at how these points are issued and created, is essentially a advertising or cost per acquisition program and strategy that these airlines and programs are basically trying to bring down the cost to uh, convert new clients and new customers, right? So they want your loyalty. They want to keep you as close as possible, and they want to spend as little money to convince you to stay otherwise. So essentially, they're bookmarking and setting aside dollars to support that free seat, that free cup of coffee, that free meal. And so when you look at the accounting of these businesses, it's essentially moving money from the left pocket to the right pocket. It's still part of United Airlines' overall, you know, budget, but essentially it's set aside and it's not converted or realized until that person is actually redeemed for that seat. Generally speaking, in terms of the metrics, it's about $110 billion that are left worth of points that are left on the table. And that's across every travel, that's across every vertical. That's travel, retail, dining, any sort of program, any loyalty program out there that has an issuing currency. It's about 110 billion worth that are left on the table every year.
That's
And
huge.
so it's huge. It's ginormous. And when you talk about people not having time, you're right. A lot of these companies are going to give you low-hanging fruit. And just kind of redeem the money quickly. And so going back to, moving money from left pocket to right pocket, they're going to have you redeem for an economy class ticket, something quick, a $25 gift card, maybe $25 off a statement credit. I mean, we've all seen it, right? It's like, use it now, redeem right now, and we'll give you, $25 off for 25,000 points. But that's a terrible conversion. And so I would say it is an absorbent amount that's left behind and can be used in a real case scenario to supplement, and there's real utility behind these points.
Some people say you should sign up for every single loyalty program you can. Do you agree?
I used to be in that mindset, but as life happens, there's just not enough time to sort of keep track of all of them. I think kind of going back to my original point of you really focus on the top two or three or four and just do that really, really well. In sort of my current ability to manage my certain, key loyalty programs, I'm very big on Alaska Airlines. They have an incredible loyalty program. As a West Coast flyer, they've really done a great job maintaining their brand presence after the acquisition and merger with Virgin America. And so I was very, very happy that there was sort of an anti-United option out of San Francisco, and Alaska really has proven to be a phenomenal program. And now that they've joined One World, even better. As far as outside of that, I'm also a big Star Alliance flyer because of United, and so I do have loyalty with both United and Singapore Airlines. And then as far as hotel goes, I do Marriott and Hyatt. And so those two programs in the world of hotels are phenomenal, especially Hyatt. Marriott has the network and reach. Their loyalty program in terms of status is less valuable, but Hyatt is sort of an all-in-one great program.
So let's bring it back to Foxtrot Dash. Tell us a little bit more about the company and the website. What can people expect if they go and visit your website today?
Yeah, Foxtrot Dash is exciting. My background is in aviation, and so I just simply love flying. My dad worked at United Airlines, and for my entire life, so he loved his job, and I saw somebody who just left to go to work so happy. Plus, like we got to travel as a family. That was a really big bonding, something that I loved and look forward to every single year. We went to Taiwan every year, and um, we would also choose other destinations as a family. And so my entire life, I've just been a huge fan and student of the aviation industry. So when the opportunity came to try different airlines, outside of United, because that's really all I had known. But I was so interested in flying, the best of the best. And the quickest way was to do that through reward points. So when I got my first credit card, within college, I started to earn my own points, and I got a really good handle of that, for the last 10 to 15 years. And I'm sort of dating myself at this point. But I realized that there was a big gap in sort of people's understanding education around these reward points. Loyalty programs are huge money makers for these programs, and so customers should absolutely maximize it. After college, I worked at JetBlue, and I got a real good insight in terms of the True Blue program and the construct of it all. And again, it's fascinating to see how much money is being moved in and out to simply maintain loyalty for these customers. And so Foxtrot Dash really is a consumer first platform. We are very much dedicated to helping and committed to helping our users right now as a US based company maximize the reward points, but we hope to expand worldwide to the UK, Canada, Australia, because those programs are getting much more rich and robust. So today, our platform is a way to both understand your earn potential as well as your spend potential. Manage your points under one roof. We're currently tracking. I think 12 programs at the moment with hopes to expand. So the four major hotel programs, the four credit card programs, and six different airline programs. And then beyond that, you can also see what your points are worth. So there's about 30,000 different ways to use your points, whether you want to go to Bali, whether you want to go to London, Amman. Japan is the hottest destination of the year right now in terms just trending as the most redeemed points going to Japan right now. This coming winter, there's a lot of capacity going into Australia, New Zealand. So that's also a really hot kind of it's like a migration pattern. Everyone's kind of going to these hot destinations because after COVID, these were the last few areas that opened up. And so there's a pent-up desire to go to these places. So our platform really is all about the planning process and inspiring you to use your points wisely.
And do you offer things like ways to redeem the points? Do you offer advice on how to transfer points from one platform to the other? What are some of the benefits that users get from visiting your platform?
Our core product is Foxtrot Dash, which is a digital platform. It's a dashboard. Dash is short for dashboard. And so you're able to, we've equipped the user with all the information they need, which programs to transfer to, how many points, what to look for. And it's pretty much a DIY process. If you're looking for more high touch services, we also have a membership tier called Foxtrot Lux, where we typically help small businesses, um, folks who've come in with millions and millions of points. We like to call them points whales. And essentially, we help them, reach their points, goals, and bucket lists, travels. Um, this year alone, we will probably redeem about 5 million points for our members. And so, we're looking to double that, in the coming few years. But yes, we love working directly with our users, and I'm very much involved with sort of the day-to-day aspects of consulting and being a part of that experience, you know, just understanding what their true needs are, and so that our team can really build features and products that really support that, that those challenges and pain points.
Could I ask you, Albert, what are some of your favorite credit cards?
That hasn't actually changed over the last, few years. And again, I really have a belief that where you're based and kind of what you have access to is a big driver of that. What's in my current virtual wallet today? I have American Express, both business and personal cards. So I have the business platinum and the business gold card. Those cards are phenomenal, work great together. Um, and for Chase, I have the Chase Sapphire Preferred card. I used to have the Reserve, but they've since increased the annual fee and their earning potential has dropped quite a bit. And the Chase Sapphire Preferred, which is kind of like their mid-tier Sapphire card, is much more valuable. And then in the business side, I use a lot of Chase Ink. So those two programs combined kind of make up the bulk of my spend potential. I've started to dip more into Capital One because they're also gunning for a spot in sort of the premium card business. And so their Venture X program and the Venture X category and product has actually become really compelling. And so their earn potential, Capital One's really starting to cause quite a bit of disruption in the premium card space. And so I would also encourage everyone to look into that if they're, open to signing up for more cards. I think Citibank in their prestige program has really dropped in their rankings. I don't see them unless they kind of, unless they get a little bit creative, I think that they're going to fall behind pretty quickly. But I would say American Express, Chase, and Capital One are my big, cards.
Tell us a little bit more about the experience of running your own fintech startup in the San Francisco Bay Area. To many entrepreneurs, that sounds like the dream to run your own startup in the Bay. Tell us, how has the journey been like?
Wow, where do I begin? We started off we started off really pursuing the idea in the middle of COVID, and it was a really phenomenal time to stay grounded, stay focused, really start to build our team and understanding what our opportunities were. And so for the last 3 years, we've been in business for about a year and a half because we spent a good year, kind of getting the idea off the ground, finding the right people. We did a pre-seed round as well, so we do have some, investors as well that we work closely with, and so the experience I would say is atypical. I don't think that most folks starting today would have the beauty and sort of the ability to focus as much as we were able to in the middle of COVID, where you were home all day. And so it was great. I love the fact that we were fully grounded in our space. Today, we are approaching a seed round, hopefully early next year, and we're really excited to share the metrics and the progress that we've made to date. We're still very much in infancy, and I think that our upcoming product release in Q1 is going to change how we do a lot of our what tools that we equip our users with. Uh, and so there's more to come there. But I'm actually heading to New York Tech Week next in October to really start to solidify some of our upcoming potential investors.
How many hours a week are you working currently?
There's not enough hours in the week to count. No, it's again, like, because I'm such a like I said, I'm so passionate about aviation, it's ridiculous. Like, I could talk your ear off about plane types and different, products, from business class seat configurations to which airlines are coming up and all this stuff, that it doesn't feel like work. And that's sort of what is so fulfilling for me and why I pursued this. I was working at airlines and I worked most recently at JetBlue, and I had a marketing role at Westfield, um, the mall group, which they also have an airports division. And so after, almost 15 years of working in the corporate world, I really was just so ready and committed to starting my own business that it honestly does not feel like work.
And that's what they always say, right? Do what you love, and it doesn't feel like work. So that's super good. So tell me a little bit more about some of your top experiences on airlines, in hotels. What are some of the best memories you have from travel?
Oh my gosh. There's too many. This summer alone, I was actually on Instagram. You can follow me on Jet Albert. I share a lot of my firsthand travels and my thoughts and reactions towards some of these business class products. But one of my highlights truly of 2023 is flying a brand new airline out of Taiwan, actually called Starlux Airlines. As a Taiwanese person, it not only is just exciting to see another airline coming out of, Taiwan, but the airline, and there's a bit of a succession story. So if you're in for a little bit of drama, the chairman of Starlux actually was ousted out of another Taiwanese airline called EVA, and they he essentially started this airline, and within 3 short years they've expanded tremendously and they have a great airline product. They started service to Los Angeles earlier this year, and they're actually starting service into San Francisco end of this year. And so that was just a highlight for me to see, a young airline like Starlux be able to compete, so rigorously and proudly alongside the world's best within just 3 short years. It's an amazing airline. I think outside of that, you hear and see a lot of videos on Emirates first class where you can shower on board, and these, mega suites and just incredible 7-star services. Singapore Suites is also another just aspirational product that it's incredible how much you can do in the sky. And where some airlines have really started to walk away from the idea of first class because they are um, very expensive to maintain. I'm very excited to see airlines continue to invest in first class products.
And it sounds like right now there aren't that many airlines. So you mentioned Singapore Airlines and Emirates as one that really stand out with their first class service. But here domestically in the United States, what are some of your favorite airlines here?
The US carriers, I also have to give credit where they're due. And, the US airlines aren't exactly, I'm not sure they're necessarily winning awards for service and, innovation, but what they do really well is they're really expanding the idea of what a super business class experience could look like. I think United Polaris in particular, JetBlue Mint. JetBlue Mint is probably the first major airline in the world to offer a truly award-winning business class experience. JetBlue Mint is a lie flat product that flies transcontinentally between New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Seattle, San Diego, Las Vegas, into a lot of parts of the Caribbean. But their experience is unbelievable, especially for a small plane like an A321, which is a narrow body aircraft. They have a flatbed seat, and their catering and their food program is incredible. So I'm very excited to see them continue to innovate. I think United Polaris is also one that they've continued to think about what a super business class looks like as well.
Albert, how often can people expect to be upgraded, right? Like if someone has a ticket in economy and they have like a really good loyalty program, they got a ton of miles, how often does it happen that they get bumped up to business class?
Internationally or domestic?
Both.
Okay. It is it's it's not likely. And I think the question comes down to is what methods you're using to upgrade. The easiest one, and I think, well, the easiest one that comes to mind, I would say, is using status, earning status, reaching a particular tier of status, and reaping those benefits. And depending on the type of program that you're loyal to, it can be very, very, very difficult. And I'm thinking about United in San Francisco. In San Francisco, everybody is a United 1K. Everybody has top tier status. it is nearly impossible to get an upgrade out of San Francisco, which is why I have actually turned to programs like Alaska because Alaska, not a lot of people actually are Alaska loyalists in San Francisco Bay Area. So when it comes to actually getting upgraded on domestic flights, you have a higher chance of that happening because you're competing with fewer people with higher status, if not even sort of invite only status, which is not reachable to the everyday consumer. Some of these executives from major companies, in the Bay Area, they've been invited to, an even higher tier of status, and so they're given even higher privileges. But Alaska, in particular, in San Francisco, because it's such a boutique program, you have a higher chance of getting upgraded. I think the easier ways of getting upgraded, of course, are um, asking for upgrades at check-in. On an international flight, especially for international carriers, they will usually have discounted upgrade fees on day of or at check-in. And so I would encourage everyone to ask about that, especially if you're about to board a 12-hour flight to Asia, it's worth the upgrade fee. The next one is using your points to upgrade as well. This one's a little bit more challenging because the stars kind of have to align. The seat has to become available at the right time, and you have to have the right amount of points, and then you can kind of sort of apply for that upgrade. But I would say the easiest one is probably to ask for an upgrade fee in sort of at check-in, then maybe using points, and then ultimately just using status for it.
Albert, as we move to wrap up this interview, where can people reach out to you? Where can people visit your website?
You can follow me on Instagram. I think that's where I spend a lot of my time. So at Jed Albert is my handle. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. Albert Hsieh is my last name. And I'm excited to kind of hear from folks who have proven methods of other ways of kind of using their points. There's so many things that I'm even still learning today, and we're excited to build a product that really meets the needs of not just advanced users, but folks who are just starting out today, trying to understand what loyalty program to sign up for and how to kind of redeem for their first business class flight. Once that happens, I guarantee you it just gets easier and easier and easier, and it becomes kind of second nature. Um, we haven't even talked about earning points, but again, I share a lot of those tips on my Instagram as well. So, you can reach out to me there, and I'm happy to share any other tips that anyone's interested in.
Thanks very much, Albert. I'll put those links into the show notes. And it was a pleasure to speak with you today about the original digital coins reward miles. So thanks very much for your time today, Albert.
Thanks for having me, Gabe, and congrats on all of your success too in your podcast. I love listening to it.
Same to you, and I wish you all the best of luck. It's super exciting and stressful sometimes to run your own startup. So I commend your bravery and all the best to you in the future.
Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for joining us for another episode of the Money Seed Podcast. Please remember to click like and subscribe. It really helps spread the message to other investors, and it helps attract new viewers to the show. We appreciate your support. Thanks very much.